Okay, we're starting a little bit late. Welcome to Michal, who's sitting here in person, and Aryeh, and to Katie and Zahava and everyone else who's joining us, and of course my mother, who watches every week, and Shina Batsheva, and Avital, and David, and I'm sure I'm forgetting people. Shalom Aleichem to all the people that watch later. So we're continuing Be'ezrat Hashem Likutey Moharan, and my clock, the battery died, so Michal's going to tell me when we're close to the end.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. Let's see, I was hoping I could see it on the screen here. Oh, there we go. Maybe that'll stay there? No, okay. But I can see the time if I just pull down for a second. But still, you tell me. Okay, so we're learning from Torah Chaf Bet. Now, I'll address what Michal was saying before, that Likutey Moharan sounds a lot of the same, right? That's what you're saying? So if it's from my lessons, it's because I tried to pick lessons that are more practical than esoteric, because some of Rabbi Nachman's lessons are very out there. Although we did go through all of part 2 of Likutey Moharan, and except for one lesson, which was, I really didn't understand at all, we literally read from Aleph to the end. It took like 3 years. I think 3 years, 2 or 3 years of lessons to get through it, and we went through all kinds of things. I guess essentially all of the Hasidic groups are saying the same thing in one way or another. You know, Chabad has their concepts, Breslov has their concepts, so it would make sense that similar things show up again and again. One of Rabbi Nachman's big lessons is not to give up, not to despair, to try to serve Hashem with joy, working on Emunah, of course, Nikudot Tovot, to finding the good in other people and everything. And it would make sense that the lessons are similar, because they're connected. They're coming from the same place. Okay, so what we've been learning, what we started off with, this is Samech Bet, 62, is that eating on Shabbos, or eating in a kosher way, can make a connection between a Kadosh Baruch Hu, or Yichud kujabrichu ushchinte. That's what it is in Aramaic. The unification between Hashem and the Shekhinah. So just to clarify, what's the unification between Hashem and the Shekhinah? Hashem is outside of this world, even though He fills this world. Hashem is filling the whole world all the time, but Hashem is not present in the world in a revealed way. Otherwise, we wouldn't have free will, which would defeat the whole purpose of creation. So what does Hashem have? He has the Shekhinah. And the example I always give here sitting at the table is we have the light bulb and we have the light on the table. If you just look at this level and you see the light on the table, and I say to you it's coming from a light bulb, you'd say to me, I don't see a light bulb. Well, the light bulb is up there. You have to believe me, it's up there. But I don't see it. But I see lots of light. I know there's light. So that's in a sense how this world is created. Of course, the light is coming from the light bulb. And the light is, in a sense, an extension of the light bulb. The light bulb it emanates the light, but it hides the source of the light. And that the reason that Hashem hides Himself, even though He's revealed in this world, but not revealed in a revealed way, is so that we don't lose our free will, and that the mitzvot that we do matter, and the transgressions that we do matter, and the choices that we make matter. So he says, but you can bring Hashem into this world. So we learned the previous lesson. We were learning lesson 24. And there Hashem was saying, Rabbi Nachman was saying that when you do a mitzvah, b'simcha, when you do a mitzvah with joy, you can bring down the Shekhinah into this world. You can bring down Hashem, not just the Shekhinah. You can elevate the Shekhinah, but you can bring down the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light that exists outside of all time and space, and outside of this world, you can bring it into this world. So you can actually make a vessel that can receive the infinite light for a temporary amount of time. And that would be, for example, if you decided to do a mitzvah and increase it from a joyous place. For example, you cook food for Shabbos and you have guests on Shabbos. This is a personal example. And you say, instead of buying the cheapest fish, I'm going to buy a little better fish. And you spend a little extra money and you make a little fancier dish than you normally would have. And when you serve it to the guests, at that moment, if you're a proper vessel for receiving the light, you might receive a little bit of the Or Ein Sof in your neshama and feel some spiritual elevation that you wouldn't have felt otherwise. But it's temporary and it doesn't last. And in that lesson he was saying, if you intellectually understand it, then you can build on it and you can grow and you can bring more of that light into your life and continually come closer to Hashem through that. And in this lesson, he talks about eating. And the way Rabbi Nachman builds his lessons is always in this roundabout way, where really everything is connected, but connected on multiple levels, and you have to have kind of like a broad mind that remembers the steps where we were and looking for connections, and then you see how he pieces the lesson together. In the end, he pulls it all together, but you don't always get what he said because it was very abstract as we were going. So he starts off, he says, when you're eating in a kosher way, you create this unification between Hashem's light in this world and Hashem's light that's outside of this world. And then he says, but how do you eat in a kosher way? What is the way that elevates Hashem's light? It's by eating with emunah. It's by eating with faith. But how do you have faith? So he says you have to know how to answer a heretic, an apikoros. And he says, what does it mean to answer an apikoros? So somebody will come to you and they'll say, what was the guy's name? I'm thinking Cicero. That was one of the Roman emperors. I have to remember his name. It's like on the top of my tongue. He was a philosopher. He was the biggest advisor to Nero. No, it starts with an S or a C. Seneca, that's it, thank you. Okay, so Seneca was this philosopher, he was a big thinker. Nero obviously had some mental illness, he did really absolutely crazy things. Apparently he bankrupted Rome. There's a story they converted to Judaism. I don't know if it's him or whatever. Craziness, but Seneca left his writings behind. And one of the things that he did was criticize the Jews. And he said, it doesn't make sense that you don't work 7 days a week. Everybody has to live off the land. Everybody has to live off of their handiwork. You can't afford to take 1 day off of work. That's a stupid thing, not a smart thing. And the Jews would answer him and say, well, according to our Torah and our connection with God, whatever we would make in 7 days, we'll make in 6 days. And we've survived all this time and we'll be fine. So he said from a logical point of view, it doesn't make sense. So you would, if you were a Roman Jew, you would feel like you would need an answer for Seneca, who's this great logical philosophical genius. That's why the Rambam wrote Moreh Nevuchim, the guide for the perplexed, which Rabbi Nachman puts a big fat X on that book and says, don't touch it. The reason he says, don't touch it, is it'll bring you to apikorsut, it'll bring you to heresy. Because what the Rambam, who was in all of Jewish history, one of the greatest Jewish minds, one of the greatest Jewish leaders, one of the most successful Jewish people in all of Jewish history, at the time, Greek philosophy, was taking off all through the Greek Empire. I guess, I don't know, when he was alive, wasn't the Greek Empire, whatever it was, but there was an idea that you had to understand how things worked. If you didn't understand how things work, you shouldn't be doing it. And so he wanted to prove that all of the mitzvot are logical. Everything has a logical basis. Not everything has a logical basis, and so the idea failed. And if somebody studies Moreh Nevuchim, the guide for the perplexed, and they take it word for word, they'll get to the point where they might not believe in God anymore, because they'll say, look, the Rambam, who's this great rabbi, he says everything is logical, and this isn't logical, and this doesn't make sense. I don't know how he explained the red heifer, or shatnez, or even keeping kosher. I don't know how you can explain kashrut in a logical way. That's not somebody knocking on the door. So you have to know how to answer the heretic. And not just answer the heretic on the outside, like Seneca, for example, but answer your own internal heretic that will ask you questions and say, why am I doing this and why am I doing that? Why, if I work all week, should I give tzedakah to somebody who I feel like doesn't deserve it? That's a hard thing for me personally. I don't know. I always give a shekel. If it's somebody that I really feel like if somebody marrying off their children, then I'm always happy to give as much as I can, because then I know that it's not just going to somebody who's not working, but sometimes it's hard to do. It's hard to take your money and to give it to tzedakah in general. You say, I need this money. So you have to know how to answer the inner apikors. That's where we left off. Yevaer madua tzarich lishtamesh b'sechel keneged apikorsot she'afshar la'avina. He's going to explain why. Before he said, we could just say, I believe everything. I have emunah and everything. You ask me a question, I say, I don't care. I just have emunah. I simply believe in it. He said, no, you have to be able to understand the things that you can understand. And he's going to explain why. And now he's going to explain why you have to use your intellect to fight heresy, even if it's something that you can understand. Umadua lo yishtamesh tamid barak be'emunah, and why a person should not always use their faith in Hashem. Yeve'er sha'al yedei shemechazek et sichlo b'limud haposkim. He's going to explain that when a person studies Shulchan Aruch, simple, straightforward Jewish law, that helps to strengthen a person's intellect. Mevatel et hasfekot be'emunah, and it nullifies the doubts that a person has in their faith in Hashem. Ubazeh machniat the Yetzer Hara, and with this, the person can subjugate the Yetzer Hara. Ki tzarich la'avod et Hashem b'shnei yitzarin. A person has to serve Hashem with their two inclinations. V'lo ach b'Yetzer Tov, and not just with the Yetzer Tov. You have to serve Hashem also with the Yetzer Hara. Ela tzarich sheyeh HaYetzer Hara kafuf leYetzer Tov. But the Yetzer Hara has to be subjugated to the Yetzer Tov, to the evil inclination has to be subjugated to the good inclination. V'hara yishtamesh kekisei lekdusha. You want to write? Okay. And the evil, I think there's probably paper here if you want to.
No, it's just one conversion.
Okay, no problem. And the the evil will serve as a cover or a chair for Kedusha. So now we're going to get a little explanation from the Baal Shem Tov. It's explained in the Zohar. Here's that phrase again. Okay. And where's the translation for it? I don't know. Ilmale Yetzara chedvata dishmata la le'avei. And it doesn't give me a translation of that. I don't know what chedvata dishmata is. It keeps showing up here again and again. Okay. This is the name of the Baal Shem Tov. V'zel Shono. And this is what he says. Mi she'en lo koach ta'avani va'ava upachot min ha'chamor. Somebody that doesn't have desires for things that are not what they want and a passion and a love for things, he's on a lower level than a donkey. Ki efshar la'atchin shum avoda yotzer bereshit, because nobody can do the work of starting a family, of having children, im lo bekoach hata'avani yetzara. If a person doesn't have a desire for things that are coming from the yetzara, meaning sexual desire, ele shetzarich lahafcho lechedvata tishmata. That's where it keeps coming up again and again, which I'm not sure what it means. But a person has to turn it into, let's see, I could take a guess, but I don't know if that's what it means because it's in Aramaic. Li'elmod Torah be'esh ahava shalhevet ka. Person should learn Torah with a fiery love that's like a flame burning for Hashem. Ulitpalel b'itpashtut dveikut miyutzo hanefesh v'chulei ad kan leshono. And a person should daven with an open heart and such a connection to Hashem that their soul might leave their body. So the same passion that a person would have for a transgression, he's saying you can take that same passion and turn it towards doing a mitzvah in a positive way. But if you don't have any passion at all, you're not going to achieve anything. So the Tanya talks about a person, a Benoni. We have the Tzaddik, the Rasha, and the Benoni. And the Benoni in the Tanya is a person that has a Yetzirah, has an evil inclination, and comes and bothers the person, but the person ignores it and does the right thing. But it talks about a person that naturally, they have a Yetzirah, but they're so basically dull and boring that they don't listen to their Yetzirah. So they're automatically a Benoni, but they didn't have any passion in their doing the mitzvah. So if a person has passion, the same passion can be redirected towards doing a mitzvah. Kama Amar Chachamenu Zichronom V'cha, the sage of blessed memory, said, ala pasuk regarding the verse, V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha, that you should love Hashem, your God, with your whole two parts of your heart, levavcha, because if it was just your heart, it would be libcha or levcha. B'shnei yitzarecha, with your two inclinations, b'yetzer tov b'yetzer ra, with the good inclination and the evil inclination. V'hainu sheyeh libo, shnei yitzarim shebilo, that is that a person's heart should be, that it won't be, that his heart, with both parts of the heart, shalem im Hashem Elokecha, shelo yeh lo machloket bein shnei yitzarim. A person shouldn't have an argument between the Yetzirah and the Yetzer Tov. The Yetzirah should be serving the Yetzer Tov. It should be subjugated to the Yetzer Tov. Hainu, shelo yeh libo chalak alav, that a person shouldn't have a divided heart. Shelo yeh lo machloket belibo keneged avodat Hashem, that a person shouldn't have any disagreement in their heart about how to serve Hashem. B'chinat katuv, as is written in Hosea, chalak libam, that their heart was divided, that his heart was divided. Sheyesh lo shnei kochot belev, that a person has two energies or forces in their heart. Yetzer atov shema'amin ba'Hashem yitbarach, the good inclination that believes in Hashem. V'yetzer hara she'eino ma'amin ba'Hashem yitbarach, and the evil inclination that doesn't believe in Hashem. V'tzarich lechapot et yetzer hara tachat hayetzer tov. You have to subjugate the evil inclination for the good inclination. V'yamin b'Hashem yitbarach b'lev shalem, and you should believe in Hashem with a full heart. Full heart meaning b'shnei yitzarav, with the two parts of the heart, shegam yetzer hara yisayeya lekdusha, that the evil inclination should help the good inclination. So, for example, if a person loves food, so you could make a line of kosher food. If you want to go into that business, you could have guests on Shabbos and cook food. You could, instead of just eating food all the time, you take the food and you elevate it by doing a mitzvah. A person that loves money and they have a lot of money, they can lend money, they can give tzedakah. And also if you don't have a lot of money, you can do that. A person loves music, can dedicate their music, they can go to a hospital and play music for people that are sick. Whatever it is, you can find a way to use your talents and your passions in a positive way for serving the Yetzer Tov. And once you start, the Yetzer Hara starts serving the Yetzer Tov. So let's say a person has a big ego and they want to speak in public, so they should speak in public words of Torah. Or they should have a podcast where they give over words of Torah. Or a podcast or some other way of speaking where they don't talk about words of Torah, they talk about something else, but they get around to talking about words of Torah. So whatever a person's passion is, they should use it for serving Hashem. ובאמת עניין זה שייך לכל אחד ואחד. And the truth of the matter is that this belongs to every single person. כי כולנו נגועים בחסרון אמונה. We're all affected by a certain lack of faith. שכן אם היה יודע האדם ידיעה בלב שלם. If a person would know with true, complete knowledge, with a full heart, שמלוא כל הארץ כבודו, that Hashem is filling the whole world, because we live in a world where we can't see Hashem. And we can decide that we don't want to perceive Hashem. And we can live in a world of complete atheism and denying Hashem, and surround ourselves with people that believe the same thing. And even though I would say to you, the light on the table has a source, you would say to me, no, it doesn't. It just is. There just is light. And I would say, but look, if I go like this, I'm obviously blocking something. No, but there's light underneath it. There's always a way of talking around Hashem. And that's how Hashem wanted the world to be. Hashem didn't want himself to be clearly made known in this world, so that we would be able to choose. Emunah would have no purpose. Faith in Hashem would have no purpose if Hashem was revealed in this world. היינו לדעת כפשוטו שהקדוש ברוך הוא נמצא בכל מקום ומקום ממש ואין מקום פנוי ממנו. That is, that a person knows in the simplest way that Hashem is found in every single place literally, and there is no place that is vacant of Him. והקדוש ברוך הוא עומד לפניו בשעת התפילה. And Hashem is standing there at the time that you are davening. Ushomea mimenu hatfilah, and Hashem hears your prayers. Vadayaya, if a person knew that Hashem, like Michal is sitting right here, if that was Hashem, let's say Hashem is sitting over here, Hashem's presence is revealed, and I know it's Hashem, then that would change the whole way that I'm behaving in my whole life. Everything would change. Just like in the opposite way, in the example I've given, if a person's about to shoplift and a police person is standing right there, they're not going to steal because the policeman is looking at them. Obviously, they're not going to steal. Or maybe that would be a thrill for somebody to try to steal. You heard of the Ofno-Bank? There was this guy who stole from banks in the 80s here in Israel. He was riding on a motorcycle, and they could never catch him. And it turns out when he was finally caught, after, 10 years of doing it, what he would do is he had a van, like a truck. He would take his motorcycle out of the truck. You heard about this?
No, but it's
Okay. And he would drive up to the bank. He had a fake gun. He would pull out 300,000 shekels or 1 million shekels. And then he would go back outside into the truck, change his clothes, and come back into the bank and tell the teller, I know the bank was just robbed and it's total chaos, but I need to deposit this money before the bank closes, and he put it in his own bank account. It turns out that the guy, and it was crazy because they were following him on the news, and they would say things like, he's never robbed a bank in Jerusalem, and the next day he would rob a bank in Jerusalem. And it turns out that he was taking a flight once outside of the country, and just because the flight was delayed, he decided to rob a bank before the flight took off. And in the end, he was from one of the wealthiest families in the country. He spent 20 years in prison for that. But he was from the wealthiest families in the country. And when he was asked, why did you steal? He said, because it was fun. It was fun. So he didn't need the money. He was just doing it for the fun. Okay, so if a person's heart, that's why I said, even if the police were standing right there, he probably would steal in front of their faces. But if a person were to know that Hashem were right there, but the time that they're davening, the time that you're asking Hashem, listen, I need help with this and I need help with that, and I really need your help. And imagine Hashem is like right there, in front of your face, and you know that it's Hashem. Then for sure a person would daven with this incredible enthusiasm. And a person would be very specific in what they're asking of Hashem. To really concentrate on the words of davening and to connect their thoughts with the words that the person is saying, because if you daven every day, you can start off on Hodu and finish with Leinu, and sometimes you look at the clock and say, did I really daven? I said all those words, did I really daven? Because it's very natural to do. I lead the davening every morning in shul, so I say the words out loud. But even then, it's very hard to actually concentrate on the words. I concentrate on pronouncing them properly, but to remember what they're saying. And for a person that doesn't know this with a complete heart, this is because a person has a division in their heart, as mentioned above. Because the person still has the evil inclination that doesn't fully believe in Hashem. And that's why a person doesn't daven with such enthusiasm. And that's why a person is not so precise in their davening. And every person with a little bit of intellect and the knowledge that they have, the understanding they have, that Hashem is actually standing there in front of you. So you know that Hashem is there, but do you really feel Hashem being there? And so you daven however you daven, and it's not in the same way that it would be if Hashem were really there. We're at 8:30, okay. Just checking myself here. Checking
on me.
Not on you, on myself. The kol echad, also it's tiring to do this, you should know. It's not easy to do. To concentrate, I'm like, concentrate. Don't lose your train of thought. The kol echad lefi me'ut, right, that we said, everybody on their level of knowing that Hashem is there. Ki me'ut hitlahavut v'dikduko betfilato. And so it is, every person, whatever amount of enthusiasm or precision that they have in their davening is based on their awareness that Hashem is listening and Hashem cares. That's why if somebody thinks that Hashem is not listening, they don't care, they won't daven at all, because what's the point if Hashem doesn't care? And this knowledge, this understanding, this is from the good part, belev, the good inclination that's in the heart. And the hiddenness of knowing Hashem's presence, that comes from the evil inclination in the heart. So anytime that you find yourself not davening with full enthusiasm and concentrating completely on the words of the davening, that's coming from the Yetzer Hara, that doesn't fully believe that Hashem is there. And the hiding of this knowledge, hein apikosot v'kushiot keneged Hashem. These are heresy and questions that oppose Hashem. וכתב בפרפרות לחוכמה, פרפרות לחוכמה is one of the main commentaries on Likutey Moharan, וזה לשונו. רצה לומר, רבי נחמן wanted to say, שגם שאין בליבו שום קושיות על השם יתברך. Even a person has total faith in Hashem, they don't have any questions about Hashem. אף על פי כן, הסתרת הידיעה שהקדוש ברוך הוא מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. The hiddenness of the knowledge, nonetheless, the hiddenness of the knowledge of knowing that Hashem is filling the whole world with His glory, ולכן אינו מתפלל כאילו השם כנגדו, and so then a person doesn't daven as if Hashem was standing right there in front of that person, היא בעצמה בבחינת הביקורסות והקושיות. That in itself, even though you have no questions about Hashem, if you're not davening with total enthusiasm and totally connected to every word that you're saying, that in itself is a type of heresy and asking questions about Hashem. Sheyetzer hara makshe et libo. That the evil inclination is hardening a person's heart. Sheyetzer hara makshe et libo lipol bera'ah. That the Yetzer hara hardens a person's heart in order to trip them up so that they will fall. And you know how the Yetzer hara causes a person to fall? You simply start with any doubt. The smallest thing, right? You forget to pay your phone bill and your phone is turned off. And you call the phone company and they say, we'll pay your bill and we'll turn it back on. So you said, oh, I didn't know. So you turn it, you pay the bill and also they'll fine you, 100 shekels or whatever. Then you're upset at yourself. You say, what did I do that for? What kind of idiot am I? What kind of shlamazel am I? Why don't I pay my bill? And I had to pay a fee because I didn't pay my bill. And also I'm this and I'm that. And the Yetzer hara just keeps coming and saying, and you did this wrong and you did that wrong. And you're like, yeah, bring on all the depression. I want to be really sad and depressed. Bring it all on. Just like, throw it on me. And you find yourself laying on the floor and crying. And you say, I hate my life and I hate everything. And the Yetzer hara is like, that's exactly where I want you.
Why it happens to me?
Right? It's happened to me many times. So I'm talking from personal experience here. So that's what it means. Makshe et libo lipol bera'ah. The Yetzer hara hardens a person's heart in order so that they'll fall into this pit of sadness and depression. V'atikun lazeh hamachloket shebalev. And how do we fix this division that we have in the heart, where we believe in Hashem, but we don't really believe in Hashem, but we believe in Hashem, but we don't see Hashem standing in front of us? La'achniat ha'yetzer hara tachat ha'yetzer tov. How do we subjugate the evil inclination to be under the good inclination? Shelo yakshe et libo keneged ha'emunah. That the evil inclination won't harden a person's heart against faith in Hashem. Who לתקן אותו בשורשו במקום יניקתו. We have to fix the source of where this is coming from, the source of where the Yetzer hara is getting its sustenance. היינו כי עיקר התהוות המחלוקת היצר hara לחלוק על יצר הטוב ולהסתיר את הידיעה הנ"ל. So what are we talking about? We're talking about that there's going to be this disagreement in your heart between the good inclination and the evil inclination that will block your awareness of Hashem, as mentioned above. Shosho min hamachloket shebekdusha. And what is the root? The root is an argument for holy sake. 35 minutes. Okay, so in 5 minutes I'm going to finish, even less, I'm going to finish this section, and I'm going to tell a short story from there. So where does this division in your heart come from? It comes, all evil energy gets its energy from Kedusha. So anytime you do a mitzvah, if you do the mitzvah in a happy and a complete way, you've prevented the negative energy in the world from drawing its sustenance. But let's say a person does a mitzvah and then they get angry. That anger from the mitzvah has now fed the evil energy in the world, and that's where it draws its sustenance. There's a story, maybe I'll just tell that story. I'll tell the story and I think I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. Instead of this story, I'm going to tell another story which is related to this. So I'm going to explain with the story in just a second. Okay, so where does this argument come from? It comes from an argument in Kedusha. יסוד זה הוא יסוד גדול בתורת החסידות בכלל ובדברי רבינו בפרט, שכל כוח הרע לפעול איזו דבר הוא משום שהוא יונק מקדושה. This idea of the negative energy drawing its sustenance from the positive energy is something that's known in all types of Hasidus. Okay, so we know that it's that Hashem created juxtaposing powers and they draw their energy from one another. Ki she'ishtanshela v'yarda min dauga ledauga ad she'nishtanshel lamata lemakom haklipot. When Kedusha, when holiness goes down and down and down and down from level to level until it reaches the lowest place, when it gets into the place of klipot, of negative energy, nitave mimenu machloket b'yetzara al yetzer tov. That's where the source of the disagreement between the good inclination and the evil inclination comes from. B'pchinat chalak libam. This is connected to that a person's heart was divided. Sheyesh lo machloket b'toch libo ba'atzmo. That the person has a division in their heart itself. Umatil bo apikosot. And that's where the heresy comes in. Umastir mimenu shvilei hasechel asher eino yodea lahashiv. And it blocks a person's way of logic, of understanding, in such a way that they can't even answer the heretical questions that they're asking themselves. Perush, af shekushiyot u'binbulim elu haya yachol lahashiv aleim b'sechel enoshi. Even though a person couldn't answer these things in a logical way, mikol makom mechimat yetzer hara shebo, because of the evil inclination that's within a person, nistaru v'nistamu etzlo shvilei hasechel. The paths of logic in their mind have been blocked up. And the person doesn't even know how to answer themselves. In this situation, person has to trust in Hashem. They have to have faith. Person has to fix themselves, because in a situation like this, a person can't daven just totally based on faith, because the person doesn't feel Hashem's presence. והתיקון הוא על ידי לימוד הפוסקים כדהלן. And the fixing for this is by learning simple halacha, straightforward Shulchan Aruch, as will be mentioned below, and that will continue next week. Okay, so the story is, how long do I have, like 4 minutes? 5 minutes. Okay, the story is that the Baal Shem Tov was at a Suda Shlishit, and all the Hasidim are sitting around the table at the Baal Shem Tov, and there's a guy who comes in, and the Baal Shem Tov says, "Come sit next to me," and he says, "Tell us where you were." And he said, "Rebbe, what do you mean?" He said, Tell us the whole story." He said, "Well, I was locked in a dungeon with my family for like a year. We owed money to a poritz, and we couldn't pay it, so he locked us in a dungeon." And he said, "No, and tell me what was going on in the dungeon." He said, "Well, for a long time we were there in the dark, but every Friday we would hear laughing and crying, laughing and crying, laughing and crying. And I was so scared, my whole family was so scared, we never asked anyone who it was. We knew we were there by ourselves. But on the last day that we were there, we were going to be released on a Friday, we're hearing the laughing and crying, and I shouted out, 'Who are you?' And the voices answered me, 'We are the angels that are created from a tzaddik who gets angry on Friday afternoon.' And he said, 'What are you talking about?' And they said, 'There is a tzaddik that fasts from Motzei Shabbos till Friday afternoon. And every Friday afternoon, just before Shabbos, he breaks his fast. And he breaks it with a cup of milk that he milked himself from his own cow. And he leaves it in the pantry, and every time we evil spirits, we find a way to knock the milk over. So we'll send a merchant, and the wife will say, "Oh, it's a really good deal on wood," and she'll go into the pantry to get the money, but we make sure she knocks over the milk. And then when the tzaddik comes home after davening, he's so hungry, he sees the milk spilled, and he goes crazy and starts screaming at his wife. And so that's why we laugh and cry. Because we cry when we think that he won't get angry. But once we knock over the milk and he gets angry, we laugh. Because that's where we get our sustenance from. All of our sustenance comes from this tzaddik getting angry. And so he said, that's it. That's the whole story. And the whole time I was there, they're laughing and crying. Apparently every time they were able to fool the tzaddik and get him to get angry. And the Baal Shem Tov turns to the other guy sitting next to him, and the guy's face turns white, and he faints on the floor, because he was known to be a tzaddik that fasted from Friday till Shabbos, or from Motzei Shabbos till Friday, and he would break his fast with the milk, and everybody understood that was him. So that's where the negative energy gets its energy from. It gets it from the positive energy, and that's why we were doing a mitzvah. We B'ezrat Hashem have to do it with joy, and to not lose our temper. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, Shukach Michal and everybody else who's sticking around. Oh,